Are you building a business, feeling the stress of all the pressures on you, and hungry to learn from other entrepreneurs? Then you're in the right place. You're listening to But First Principles, where we highlight the principles you need to win both at work and at life. Let's dive in. All right, so I'm joined today by Tom Illmensee, who is the founder of Orbital Music Park, which its location is at Reveille in Richmond, and really excited. I with some frequency I've interviewed creatives who also have businesses around their creative endeavors, and this one I think is really cool. So can't wait to talk about your business, Tom. But I want to first pepper you with a couple rapid fire questions, like we talked about, if that's cool.
That's great, and glad to be here with you, Colin.
Awesome. So cool. So kicking off, first of all, what's the thing that you're most excited to be able to talk about today?
Oh, well, mm, we just have an interesting story to tell about a long journey through highs and lows and
Hmm.
navigating lots of turbulence along the way, building an inclusive music community in Richmond.
Hmm.
It's taken many years, and we are just barely started on the journey, but it seems that we're making some progress and enough to inspire us to keep going and uh, make the most of every day.
Which is awesome. And I'm sure we'll get into like kind of your philosophy on that, which, that's, yeah. So make the most of every day, right? So, um, what do you think is your most controversial opinion when it comes to business?
Well, I guess we have to define controversy. That's something that's outside of the boundaries of uh, what's standard practice
Hmm.
or um, uh, something that is deemed safe and acceptable by most people. And I wouldn't
Yeah.
know how to answer that. Um, in this world, everything's controversial. It can, it can be as simple as, wearing a sweatshirt in July, which I'm doing right now. Um, so I don't know if there's controversy. Maybe we can change the question a bit
Sure.
and think it as courage or things that require some bravery.
Mm.
Um, that is a much juicier topic.
Okay,
And
well then let me reframe. Like, yeah, what's one thing that you think is maybe you've done that's required a lot of courage to, within the context of the business?
well, yeah, I mean, I guess uh, the brave thing right now for me is uh, trying to craft uh, a music experience, a live music experience in Richmond that is on an equal level to some of the more iconic jazz clubs in the world,
Mm.
like Ronnie Scott's in London,
Yeah.
uh, the Blue Note in New York City.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, we want to aspire to create an atmosphere, a vibe, a history that um, you know merits being included on a list of some kind, like
Hmm.
those places are.
Yeah.
So it's a very big vision and an aspiration, and there is no book or manual that tells you how to do it. You have to write it as you go.
Yeah. And yeah, there are many things I love about like your philosophy and the way you're approaching things, and that's, I mean, I like when you're speaking, and tell me if this is way off base, but like I thought of like Field of Dreams, that old movie that like, just the mystique or sort of like that, like it was a legend, right? Kind of thing of like that's what you want to build. You want to build like a legend, and how do you do that? Like, yeah, that's a fantastic.
Yeah. How do you do it? Do you know? Tell me.
Yeah, what's the secret formula, right? Well, and I do think and frankly, I do think it stands true that like every master does the fundamentals, and so it's going to be built on a foundation of the doing the fundamentals, but then with your own special sauce and your own like with a few extra special layers on top of that foundation, right? Um, but exactly what that special sauce is, I couldn't tell you. I do know what the fundamentals are. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's years and years of experience,
yeah,
uh, sort of manifesting as a set of instincts that uh, are constantly uh, being tuned and recalibrated.
hmm
So, the impulses you have don't necessarily manifest right away in action. It's sort of it passes through a set of questions,
hmm.
and we look at things kind of like an opportunity to answer a question. What
Hmm.
would it be like if we did this? What would it feel like for a guest if we did this? And then how do you answer that question in a way that's, feasible and ethical and, cheap?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, affordable, like sustainable, let's say.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that's yeah, again, I think which is very cool. And I'll just say this very briefly because I mean, this could be a whole other topic as conversation, but like part of what you're describing, like, I have plenty of conversations with leaders about intuition and trusting your intuition. And I would say intuition is mostly what you just described as this sort of stacking of experiences that allows you to like explore questions. Um, yeah, so it's often called intuition of like, how'd you know that? Well, I didn't exactly, but kind of it's just the stored data that like my subconscious has been working on, right? And a whole slew of other things.
It is a
But
form of
yeah,
data-driven decision making. Uh, it's not just, wild idea. It's
yeah,
it's evidence driven.
yeah.
And for us, it's also we're quite prepared to be surprised by the outcome.
Hmm.
And it's not
Yeah,
always the one that we thought it was going to be.
yeah, yeah. That's
Sometimes it's like,
which
oh, damn, well, that was not it.
yeah. We thought that was it, but it's not.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and it's always, small details and
Hmm.
uh, it's kind of the joy of like challenging your assumptions every day and
Mhm.
the privilege we have right now of being able to have a laboratory to test these ideas.
Yeah. Well, cool. Getting back to, some of the questions I just want to ask right up front. So what do you feel like is your biggest accomplishment in all this
Well,
so far? Because like you said, you're just beginning in many ways.
yeah, I guess, and forgive me. Um, how do you define an accomplishment? How do you measure an accomplishment? What counts as an accomplishment? There's, big ones that you put in a trophy case, and there are little ones that,
Mhm.
probably this audience would not bother to be all that interested in, but mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, let me go. I mean, what is meaningful to you? Because I think that question I do mean like what is your biggest accomplishment? Like what's most meaningful to you?
yeah, well, I guess there's a way to answer that in the tangible.
Hmm.
Um, and it's not,
Measurable, sort of,
yeah,
yeah,
something that you can touch, and I can answer that.
deliverable.
And there's
Yeah.
sort of like a spiritual
Hmm.
um, side of it that's
Yeah.
that's
State
a
of
bit
being, maybe. That's
mystical.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
let's have an accomplishment in both categories, perhaps.
Awesome.
Um, I guess one accomplishment on the tangible side is that we've been me and my partners here at the Reveille space,
Hmm.
and I'm 50% of Orbital Music Park with my partner Morgan Huff, and
Hmm.
the partners at Reveille are Tina Perlman and Josh Charda. The
Hmm.
four of us have combined our energy and experience into creating this really elegant, um, r- fiercely romantic jazz club listening room in Carytown. It's 100 seats, and
Yeah.
it's an exquisite listening experience. It's really built for connection between a performer and an audience.
Yeah.
And there is a transference of energy in every show, whether it's jazz or rock or Afrobeat or cumbia music,
Whatever the
cabaret.
genre is, yeah, right.
There's a there's a just a feeling everyone has when they're together in this space. That is an accomplishment of feeling a sense of community in a very diverse group of people. And as we've talked about before, there's a thrill of us all being in the present moment together. With live performance, you're not 10 songs ago. You're not 3 songs from now. You're right now. You're right on the beat. And everybody in the room is together in the present moment for the duration of the show. And that is a rare and precious and amazing feeling. So I guess on the tangible accomplishment, it's being able to have a stage and a listening experience that performers and audiences really seem to uh, have a very powerful experience in it. That is a hard and miraculous thing to accomplish. And there's no recipe. I can't write it like here's the 16 steps for accomplishing. No, I don't know exactly how it works all the time, but whatever we're doing seems to have an effect. So that's the tangible accomplishment. On the spiritual accomplishment, I've always been a music maker from being a little kid, and I found a language in playing guitar and playing piano and the world of music and um, being able to do that as a grown up. Uh, whew, that's remarkable. Um, I forget who said it. It might have been Frank Zappa said that, in music, we're decorating time, you know. Uh, uh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Time, we could say, if you're into Stoic philosophy, the Stoic belief that uh, we overvalue things like currency and undervalue things like time.
Yeah.
And here in this place, time is in a constant state of decoration and celebration. And, spiritually, that is a feedback loop that I can't quit. I just want to stay in that flow of sound and
Hmm.
connection as long as I can.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, well, it's great. And I love that it's very much a reflection. Like your answers are very much a reflection, obviously, of what you do, who you are, right? And I think I said this when we were talking before that to me it's because I work with all kinds of people and it's very to me the way you speak, it's very obvious like music flows through your bones, like it's something that's integral to you, right? Um, so yeah, I think that's awesome to if few people get to do that, who really love music. They like and again, we'll
Well,
probably
here's a
talk.
twist on that one.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm not really even a musician. I'm a music maker. I can't read music at all,
Hmm.
but I'm more of like a sound hacker.
Right.
I can play tunes and I can play guitar and piano and drums and all kinds of stuff, but uh, I did study it in school, and my vocabulary is limited on the bandstand. You
Hmm.
know, um, but I can sense and respond well
Right.
enough.
Right. Yeah. Man, I was actually in for a while I was a monk. And I don't know if I shared that with you, but that was, that's part of my story. And
All right.
we chant every morning and a couple times a day. And I can barely read music, but I love being in choir and singing like a Gregorian chant, right? Because it does fill you, right? And it's like a mystical experience, and that's the reason that it's been around forever, in religious ceremony and all that, right? Um, yeah. And we're getting very philosophical or sort of, high level, even though I'm trying to like the idea was to get like a couple quick questions in, but that's okay. I mean, I really enjoy this conversation. I think a lot of people will too. Because we in a commercialized world, we really do lose contact with that kind of like kairos, that kind of time that is outside of time, that's in flow, that's, caught up. There's something mystical about it.
Yeah, well, there's magic in the flow state, uh,
Yeah.
which is something several academics have written long books about. There's the Hungarian guy,
Nihai Chik, I can't even say his name.
Csikszentmihalyi.
Yeah, exactly.
Csikszentmihalyi.
Yeah, right.
Um, and uh, uh, there's a really awesome book called Badass by I think Kathy Sierra,
Mm,
and they both are riffing on um, this notion of different levels of competency and the
mm.
the the joy of getting into a state where a flow where your ideas manifest in action and that action feeds back in to the loop and like you're playing a
You're
song.
sending Lestaire like it's like it like this leads to this leads to this, like, and it's very, it
Yeah,
flows. It all
and
just comes. Yeah.
your competency is growing steadily as the flow state continues.
Right.
We crave it,
Right.
and yet in a lot of work environments, it's just constantly disrupted.
Yeah.
You talk to software engineers, and one of their biggest annoyances are meetings because they chop the flow state in inconvenient times constantly.
Yep.
And but it affects us all, email notifications, Slack messages, all these things are helpful tools and also disrupting the flow state, which adds to a sense of frustration. So anything we can do to help an audience or a music maker or anybody stay in the flow state, that is a gift we
Yeah.
will constantly give.
Yeah. I mean, and talk about value creation in business. I mean, like you're gifting that, you're offering that, you're, creating that value, or the value in that experience. Um, yeah. So it's very cool stuff. And the accomplishment of like making a life out of that and living out of that as well. Um, so
Sure.
at the end of your life, another small question, like big question, is what do you want to be known for looking back?
Oh man, you know what? How's this? I don't really care. Uh, and here's why. I what I'm reading right now, Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
It's an audiobook actually. Carl
Mhm.
Sagan's book, Billions and Billions.
Mhm.
And I love Carl Sagan's books on astronomy and science because it is such a uh, it puts everything in perspective.
Yeah.
This short weird life we have on this weird isolated planet in the middle of a vast expanse so
It's just mind-blowingly
so deep
vast,
that
right?
we
Yeah,
can't
right.
even
Yeah.
like our brains just stop after a minute. And like I just realized that I have a very short fraction of a fraction amount of cosmic time on Earth. And so I just want to make the most of the time I have. I'm not thinking about being remembered. I don't know.
Yeah.
I, and maybe you can't, it's not up to you. It's not. You well, in some ways, I guess. If you have a legacy of love
Hmm.
and doing things that matter to people, those ideas will be handed down from generation to generation. We still talk about Marcus Aurelius's notes and Confucius and uh, um, yeah, you name it.
Yeah. Any major thinker. I mean, I love Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, there's a number of, I mean, yeah, just, and even more recently, historical figures. And I think
I
that's,
don't know.
I mean,
It's
yeah,
kind of exhaust on a life well lived. They're not the life. They're just kind of like the vapor trail behind, and even that eventually just dissipates into the cosmos. So, okay. Eh,
yeah,
okay.
no, which is cool. I mean, yeah, again, like very philosophical dose, but like, I think there's a real paradox to that too, because that's, Um, I want to tell you like three stories, but like this is not my interview. This is your interview. So like, but like the just that I think, man, I think that's so important to contemplate sometimes the stars and like the paradox of like we are so like your life is so incredibly unimportant, and at the same time, it's so incredibly important. Like both are true, and to hold them together is, I think, extraordinarily important for the well-being of our mind and our soul. And so yeah, again, um,
Yeah, right. Yeah,
this is very cool stuff.
each of us are miracles. I don't understand how any of this works,
I know,
and
like
yet
we're the yeah,
I operate it. I live in it every day.
right,
I don't even know like what this bunch of cells is called. I don't know.
yeah,
How is my brain forming speech right now? I can't describe it. It's happening. So, I mean, there's a universe of amazing stuff right here in this
yeah,
bag of skin and bones.
yeah.
Uh, uh, but in the bigger context, right? I mean, it's kind of well, but I guess to put this in the context in a bigger context, that one of my favorite stories in music, and perhaps this connects to some business as well, is that the oldest musical instrument is a flute that was found in a cave in Eastern Europe, and archaeologists date it between 50 and 60,000 years old, which predates Homo sapiens.
Hmm.
Uh, think about that for a
It's
second.
crazy, yeah. Like, right.
Like
So predates Homo sapiens. What? Like, so like monkeys
playing
were
that
making
flute.
music? Like, yeah, right.
And like my imagination is like, well, okay, what were the circumstances that caused that flute to be left behind in the cave? Who did the flute belong to? Uh, why was it in the cave? Maybe someone was playing the flute annoyingly in the village and they were banished to the cave. Or maybe the cave was a music club like this one.
Yeah.
And the whole village went over there on Friday night and jammed out to Bone Flute or whatever it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Uh, and they had too much to drink that night, and the musician left their flute behind, which has happened here. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Wouldn't be the
50
first time.
fifty
Right.
thousand years ago, same thing now. Uh,
Right.
thing
Right.
50,000 years from now, I don't know. But there are a lot of these examples of we went on a tour a couple of years ago of Pompeii, the ruins of Pompeii,
Oh yeah.
and
Wow.
you go with an archaeologist, they'll show you sort of like, and this is where the bakery was, and this is where you could go get a beer, and this was the house of ill repute, and this was the thing. But you realize that you might as well be talking about New York City. It's the same thing.
Same
Like this is
things.
a
Yeah.
restaurant, this is where you put your money, and you got the bread, and it's the same stuff. It's just everything's remixed on remixed on remix. So
So, gosh, and again, like I probably should keep going with the flow of questions, but I'm gonna break script. So, like, here we are. Here we're going. Um, so it's interesting because I know you have some strong opinions actually about AI and or like AI music, and but bear with me for a second. Um, I love one of the Socratic dialogues, written by Plato about Socrates. So, in the mouth of Socrates is this whole conversation around the this new technology that's going to ruin everyone's memories. Guess what it was?
Uh, Carving into stone. I don't know what.
Basic, I mean, something like a lot. No, letters, like the use of letters, and then in Socrates' time, like written on the scrolls, right? So, like we're now symbolizing our words, and we can communicate them in this more rapid fashion. Which scrolls, that's rapid, But okay, back in the day, yes. Um, it's going to ruin everyone's memories. It's such a waste of time. Like you should memorize the poems and the stories, and you should memorize all the things, the great works. Um, and and it's like, man, the more things change, the more things stay the same, right? And that's actually what like part of my work too is like that, like finding the fundamentals, human nature that arguably doesn't change, and there's some constants that we know are, and they're parameters. Like there's lots of like right ways to do it within the parameters, but there are these constants that are the parameters, right? And um and now we have all kinds of new technologies and like distractions and things like that. I'm sure they were cavemen who were frustrated with their neighbors interrupting them all the time while they're trying to work on their bone tools, like, right. So uh yeah, and it's not getting lost in the new flashy technology and stuff, but like what is the human experience, which is what you're all about. So okay, let me ask another question. The um Uh, so well, what does your business do, and who do you think should come to be part of it?
Well, what does our business do? Hmm. I don't know how to answer that in a
Of course you don't. Yeah,
sentence,
that's great.
but I know there's 14
Yeah.
books that tell you you should be able to answer it in a sentence. Right now, my answer to that is we are building inclusive creative spaces for music makers. That's the
Mhm.
shortest version.
Yeah.
And it turns out that when you do that, people like to show up and listen to those music makers. So there's that. And then
Yeah.
when people show up to listen to those music makers, you need to have staff to serve them food and drinks. And when all those people are together, they want everything to sound really great. So you need an audio engineer. And uh, you need everybody to know what's happening. So you need to build a website and you need to market your shows and you need to make posters and you need on and on and on. So, the essence of it though is, uh, I guess, sort of like spotlighting the creativity of musical collaboration and celebrating in that moment, whether it's a trio, like last night we had this awesome trio here, and then tonight we'll have 17 people on stage playing, Parliament Funkadelic. Uh, it's all kind of the same. It's just people listening and trying to contribute to make a thing together in real time, and that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the live experience of music and this intimate experience of music for music makers and the audience as well.
yeah, and I started playing in bands in 1991 and moved to Richmond in a band with my business partner Morgan. He was a drummer at the time, and I was lighting my guitar on fire with a big lighter. Actually, he and I did that together.
It's a show.
Surprisingly, you can set your guitar on fire that way. Who knew? Um, but as a result, we've played in a lot of different places of different levels of care and concern for what the musicians were doing. Some places
Mhm.
really cared what was happening on stage, and some places could not give a crap what was happening. And, decades of doing that, we kind of observed what we liked about those experiences and what sucked. And, here we are sort of building something that we think is sort of like has the best parts of what we always wanted to see, and not just as a player, but also as someone in the audience. You know how it feels to be in a room. You know.
Yeah, no, which I think is fantastic. Um, okay, so then we'll lead now at this point. Let's get a little bit more into your story. So like you told a little bit of your story, playing music and moving to Richmond, but I think it's interesting. I mean, you started off in software.
Yeah. Well, I'll go back even further than that.
Sure.
When I moved to Richmond, I was just like a lost artist. I had a Stratocaster. I didn't need a case for the guitar. I just carried it naked everywhere, the
Hmm.
guitar. And
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
uh,
right. Yeah.
just bounced around and, tried to make a life in art and got very frustrated and very depressed with how certain things were working out. This was in my early 20s. And then
Okay.
I, uh, I had an epiphany that when I wasn't playing guitar, I should be doing something to benefit others in some way. So I called the United Way and was like, hey, I want to volunteer. I don't know what to do. What do you got? And the nice person on the other end said, oh, there's a daycare center. They need grown-ups on the playground in the afternoons. And I was like, all right. And I went over there and it was absolutely terrifying. It was the worst. It was like 3-year-olds to 5-year-olds, just pure chaos. Um, and I'm like this punk rock musician showing up there, and I'm
Right.
just like,
Yeah. I mean,
what,
did you have to do like a background
what is
check or
this?
anything? Like, yeah.
I
Right.
know. Well, it turned out that the daycare center is run by a, a director whose spouse was in a big band in the 80s. And
Okay.
and it turned out some of the teachers and parents there are all part of the music scene. So I just
Okay.
happened to wind up at the rock and roll preschool and I
That's
started
awesome.
volunteering in the afternoons. And eventually I was given an opportunity to be a teacher there. But that being a preschool teacher was really the life changer, the game changer that changed
Wow.
every life.
Sure.
And I can trace it to a moment. It was probably like a weekend. I was completely not feeling it, ready to just quit. Like this isn't right. This is weird. I'm a punk rock guitarist. Why am I on the playground? This makes no sense. Call the United Way back. So I'm out on the playground and it's chaos. The kids are running everywhere, and all the other teachers are kind of like just confident and cool and watching over things. And I'm standing out there just like counting the minutes. And these two kids run into each other because they're not looking where they're going. They're smashing into each other right in front of me, and tears, and there's just a mess. And I'm like, well, hey, some other grown up come over here because there's a thing. And one of the teachers was like, just hug him. Just all you got to do is hug the kid. And I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, do it. Just and they're all busy, so they're just like, just freaking hug the kid. So I got down on my knee and opened my arms, and this kid walked into my arms and got a little hug and sniffled and ran off. And I was just like, huh, wow, all right.
That
So there
worked.
was a moment there of like uh of real empathy, getting down on a knee, of getting over myself, of sort of opening my arms, trusting somebody else to tell me what to do, and having this moment of really making a difference and helping somebody, even if even if they're 4 years old, you know, that was kind of like a, ooh, all right, well, wait a second. And I credit that moment with sort of getting me back into an academic program, a bachelor's degree in history and an interdisciplinary master's degree, and getting into the world of design and user experience and product development because it's all about uh, changing your perspective, opening yourself up to new ideas and trying to make a difference, make something that helps somebody,
Yeah.
and in that case, it was just a lot of software stuff, you know.
Wait. So how did you go from preschool to software? That
Well,
I have.
yeah, I got a job at the Virginia Historical Society at the time, and I was a library clerk for a while there. And I noticed that the website could have been doing a lot more than it seemed to be doing. At the time, it was sort of like, we're the Virginia Historical Society, and a button to go search the library. But I was like, well, what if it could tell a story about all the things that are happening on the walls? And like, what if we could do this? So I taught myself to code and then offered to just as a library clerk, just help with the website and do little projects on the side. And then they promoted me into the publications office, and I started making online exhibitions and started doing more sophisticated storytelling and web development. And then that led me into the corporate world where I started off as a web developer, but then as a product strategist and a researcher and a prototyper. And then that got me into startups and bigger companies. And then for a while, I led the design and research team at Prezi in Budapest, Zooming presentations, all that stuff. And then
Yeah.
spent a lot of time in Europe, and then uh, and the whole while, learning how to approach software projects in, the lean startup way, the build, measure,
Yeah.
learn, or, the my preferred framework is thinking, making, and checking. You just
Mhm.
make stuff to answer questions at different levels of fidelity, and all that good stuff. And
Nice.
that was fun and meaningful for a while. And then now I'm applying all that stuff I've learned into this venture, which is
Mhm.
only it's about 85% fewer pixels than a couple of years ago. Now it's mostly decibels and notes.
Yeah. Which is awesome. I mean, and I love the way you connect things of like the experience of hugging a kid on a preschool playground, leading to user experience, leading to making music as a user experience or an audience experience and a maker experience. I mean, it's the human experience, right? I mean, and it's how you are moved and where you're moved to, um, based on the interaction with.
Yeah, there was never
Yeah.
like a bulletin board of sticky notes. Like, I'm going to do this for a couple of
Do
years,
this and
and then I'm
this
going
and
to do that, and
right.
then I'm going to do this, and then it's going to go. No, 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 no. It's
Yeah.
always like, now what?
Okay, what's next? Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Very cool. So I guess right now with Orbital Music Park, um, what um what are you most excited about right now? Like what's the coolest thing going on? And can you say, well, let's just start with that. Let's just start with that. What's the coolest thing going on right now with Orbital Music Park? What are you excited about? What are you proud of? What's cool about
Yeah.
it?
Well, let's see. We are learning how to be a better community space in at Reveille. We
Mhm.
are putting on shows that are more refined and rare, and working with artists who are traveling and who have accomplished things like Grammy nominations and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
we're um, building those relationships and putting on those shows, the kind that you're kind of like, how is this how is this happening? Like we had the drummer from Butcher Brown is Corey Fonville, and he
Mhm.
put together a trio with Sam Freibush, who plays a vintage Hammond B3 organ, and and Charlie Hunter, who is a legendary guitar player. He also plays a hybrid instrument that is half guitar, half bass, and he plays guitar and bass at the same time. Charlie's a legend. So to have that trio on our stage, having a blast and just improvising and delighting an audience was just like that was like, okay, more this is
Yeah.
living more of this. Let's keep
Yeah.
doing this. And then that's part of our mission is to continue to build a performance space. Like I said at the beginning, it's sort of on the level of we're aspire to be at the level of places like Ronnie Scott's.
Mm.
We've got a long way to go to get there. Ronnie's Scott's is the highest bar for me, uh,
Yeah.
but it's a bar. And then the other part of our purpose and our mission is to provide rehearsal space and collaboration space.
Hmm.
And so that requires building soundproof rooms and having them fully equipped, and then building an apparatus of memberships around that. We prototyped that in a warehouse a couple of years ago, and it taught us a lot. Enough. One of the lessons is that we need to do it in a bigger space that's more sustainable. We sort of built a temporary prototype in a big warehouse that had no air conditioning. Woo! Uh,
Yeah.
one of our
Sessions
new
got hot.
air conditioning.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So that's the next, big project to figure out is how can we maintain an exquisite performance space and serve a music community that needs reliable, safe, inclusive, inspiring, creative space for sound.
Mm.
So yeah, I
And
haven't
what,
figured.
so currently, what's the setup like? Is it, and forgive me, I'm hoping actually maybe at the end here in just a few minutes we can do a quick little tour.
Oh
But
yeah.
is it like one main amphitheater and then like separate practice spaces, or what's the setup right now? Just
Well,
physical
our
location.
original idea was that we'd all do it under one roof, and we wound up in this building in Carytown where we did a pretty deep engineering evaluation of what it would take to do that, and we concluded this wasn't the right place to build all that stuff for a variety of reasons, lease and just the way that the building is put together and
Acoustics and
sound
yeah,
isolation stuff. So it seemed more prudent to do them in separate buildings. And
I
so
see.
uh, now we have to go find the second building, and we've got some really great candidates of things that we're really interested and intrigued by. Um, so now it's just, dedication, steadfast commitment to realizing the vision. Where um, we have this belief that every capital city on earth has this problem of lots of apartments and townhomes and uh, a large enough population of music makers who can't make a peep in those places. They need places to go where they can make sound
Make
together.
sound. Yeah, right. Yeah.
A lot of musicians will, resort to like setting up in a storage garage or, transforming a basement or, they hack spaces together, but there's nothing that has really been designed for that purpose. We have experience in building those things, and we want to build the first flagship here in Richmond and then take it to other metropolitan statistical areas, MSAs, not just in the US, but all over the world, because it's a
Mhm.
problem everywhere. Is
Yeah.
where's that cave where they found the flute? That that's a problem all over the place,
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, and thank you.
there are practice places like people make rehearsal studios, but what we're
Sure.
doing a little more um, weirder. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to kind of put a drum set in a room and just charge people to go in and play it. Um,
Sure.
we'll need another podcast to get into the details of why we're different and what we're trying to make. But
Right.
anyway,
Yeah,
uh,
no, I think there is
not
something pretty
done.
special. Yeah. What's that?
We're not done. I'm not here being like, yep, we've done it. Here's our story. No, we're
Right.
on the journey and we're figuring things out as we go day to day.
Well, that's perfect. Thank you, because you answered a question I had anyway. What's kind of the vision, the longer term play, right? And that's it. That like every city, that becomes available for musicians, or music makers. Um, and frankly, just like time here has flown by. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna wrap up with a couple questions. Then if you can just kind of show us around, that'd be cool. And then I'll close.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, big part of this podcast is to encourage entrepreneurs. So, if you have like one maybe story or just kind of lesson or something that you've really learned that's gotten you through some hard moments, I'd love to hear what that is.
Yeah. One of my favorite books is called The Practicing Stoic,
Hmm.
and the author is Ward Farnsworth. And what he has done, do you know this book? Have you, or
Yes,
you,
well, right, yeah, because I'm a big fan of philosophy, and yeah, there's aspects of Stoicism that I'm not a huge fan of, but yes, that's cool.
yeah, I can dig it. Uh, well, the book sort of organizes, it's sort of like a greatest hits record of lots of different Stoic philosophy from, the time of the Stoics all to the 20th century.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a compilation that's organized by theme. One is about judgment and how our biases come into our decision making. Like one of my favorite bits out of there is that it's not that there are things that are inherently good or bad. It's that we form an opinion about the thing, and then we have a physical, emotional reaction to our opinion. And so we have control over our emotional state. Like, if we have a bad week business wise,
Mhm.
we're forming an opinion about it being bad, and we're having a reaction to our opinion about it. But if we change our perspective on it, uh, maybe there's a different way of looking at the week that tells a different story. That's an example of how, Stoic practices can really be helpful, especially if you're in a perpetual startup like us. But I think the one that the bit that's come up for me more often is in Word's chapter on adversity, and the big punchline there is that the obstacle is the way, and I guess for me, what that means is that when you hit resistance, when you hit a wall, when you hit uh, that overwhelming, deflating sense of uncertainty, it's also a moment that can trigger your creative brain into coming up with a way through it or around it or a response to it that opens up a whole new door that was never even available to you. So even the setbacks become fuel for inventing something you didn't know was even available or possible.
Yeah.
You just have to kind of have the calm discipline to know that the obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
And I'm 50-50 on that. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I just don't want an obstacle. No, thank you. No obstacles right now. Uh, but the universe is like, guess what? You're getting one.
I
So
want you to have the way, right? Yeah. Yeah.
you're welcome. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's awesome, because I mean, like, there's a huge component of what I do in coaching is exactly the mindset, right? And that's what it's all about, and that's has everything to do with even like my experience being a monk, like spending an hour in meditation every day. Like that's enormously helpful to create that space to really get your to get the perspective on things that are um,
Oh, you
maybe
said space.
challenging.
Space. That's the other bit.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the dressing room here at the spot, and we have a bunch of books for artists, and one of them is this Prince book. And
Yeah.
we're huge Prince fans. I'm a huge Prince fan,
Huh.
and one
He was
of my
quite the artist. Yeah.
one of my favorite Prince quotes is the space between the notes is the good part. And what that means is that when you're doing funk music or R&B, any kind of soul music, um, well, jazz, using silences and emptiness makes the whole thing uh, breathe. You got to put oxygen in it.
Mm,
Donny Hathaway's records are famous for their just just oceans of space between the beats. And there's magic in the music, the sound, for sure, and we can celebrate that. But there's that silence, the breaks between highlight the sound. If it
mm,
was just a continuous blur of sound and action, it would kind of be exhausting. But it's the
mm.
space that really makes it sing. How do you translate that into business? I don't know. Literally, to
I
take breaks.
actually I have I think I could tell you
All
two
right.
ways I can and maybe even and probably many more because I've spent a lot of time thinking about these things actually. So the so two things actually, and I that's beautiful. I for so many reasons so good. Um, One of the most important things in leadership, and I've done a lot of leadership development, and that's part of what I do now, is to listen, right? And one of the most uncomfortable things in the world is silence. But silence is required, and it's not really silence. It's more like processing time. It's because there's so much going on emotionally and cognitively in the silence. So that's the first thing. That's just one. And the second is some kind of daily practice of you call it meditation, you can call it journaling, you can morning routine, right? Prayer, like something to give your spirit some space to and even just like that building of intuition as well of just um processing things, like, yeah, meditating on things and getting, and that's a lot of the work that I do again with clients is just taking the time to look at things from a strategic level and looking out over the vista and seeing what's the way ahead, right? Get you out of the weeds, get you out of reaction, get you, into a place where you can really create rather than react. So I'm passionate about this stuff. So yeah, yeah, right. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Listening is well, I think it was Duke Ellington who said something like, it's the most important characteristic in any musician is their ability to listen. It's not their competency on their instrument, it's their ability to listen.
Yeah.
Uh, Competency is crucial as well. I mean,
It's
but
important. Yeah.
but man, the listeners, woo, that is the stuff. And then there's another quote that I maybe we can wrap up on. I want to make sure I get it right. So I'm Googling it.
Sure.
Uh,
Speaking of silence, just a moment of quiet while we're getting
yeah.
Google.
Yeah. So there's hearing and then there's listening, right? So hearing is just, you know, uh, not talking while the other person is. It's not the same as listening.
Yeah, the sounds hit my eardrums. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's sound happening. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yada yada. But there's no kind of like processing or registration of it. Igor Stravinsky is one of my favorite composers, and the Firebird Suite for me is the ultimate. But he has this great quote about listening. He said, "To listen is an effort, and just to hear has no merit. A duck hears also."
Don't just be a duck.
A duck heard that garbage truck. Did you listen to that garbage truck? Anyway, did you smell the garbage truck? All right, so you want a tour, a
Yes,
brief?
I mean if we can do it in a way that like you feel like, yeah, let's try it. Let's do it.
So I'm in the currently in the dressing room,
Okay.
uh, and there's a piano in here and some snacks and other stuff. So I'm gonna turn my laptop around like this,
Yep.
and we are gonna go out through the back. We're gonna
This is
start
the
in.
backstage tour, like exclusive access, right?
So this
And
is
what is this?
this is what we call the Lunar Lounge. That's a giant hawk,
Yeah.
and if you can see all kinds of groovy artwork and fun stuff everywhere.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then we've got these lovely little places to sit. That's the wishing tree. Those are full of sometimes very inappropriate wishes people write. And then we've got some amazing stuff like this is a piece by Noah Scalin. He's a Richmond artist who made
Hmm.
this sculpture out of fiberglass and steel, and it was in Times Square for a long time.
Hmm.
And then we're going now into the venue space. And here you can see we've got all these like lovely little tables. And then there's the stage and the bar. And we're going out to this is Cary Street right here, Carytown.
Got it.
So this is
Hello, Richmond.
yeah, this is us.
Yeah.
That's the Galaxy Diner over there. And yeah, so that's us. This is Vincent Price wearing a marching band helmet. And then tonight, in about 2 hours, the stage will be filled with horn players and singers and maniacs making a big dance party.
That's awesome. So, Tom, this is awesome. I really appreciate it. If someone wants to reach out and is intrigued, I mean, I this was a lot of fun. And thank you for the tour. Someone wants to reach out, how do they reach you?
Well, it depends what they want. If they want to come to a show, go to reveilleexperiences.com and get a ticket. If you want to nerd out about music community stuff, go to orbitalmusicpark.com and you can get in touch with me both places.
Okay.
And then there's
How do you
always the
spell
link.
Reveille? How do you spell Reveille? I think that's
Uh, Google it. Uh, Reveler experiences.com. That's the full URL.
perfect.
Colin, thanks for doing this series and for including us in it. It's always fun to share stories and uh, you know, if we can inspire anybody through all the stuff we're doing here, we hope that we'll be inspired by others. So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a huge part of like this the podcast and even just, the cool one of the really cool benefits for me personally is getting to meet all kinds of cool people and being part of the network and that's I hope that also listeners get a an experience of that as well. So cool.
well, thanks again.
Yep. Awesome.